I was so far from feeling like music could have been a career. If you would have listed 50 jobs, I'd think it wouldn't even made the top 50.
How come?
Growing up, just never felt connected to it. I never, that side of me hadn't unlocked yet. My parents, being the hardworking people they were, wanted us to have job security, and they grinded for so long that they really wanted us to have a good education and sort of be the traditional doctor, lawyer, you know, blue collar, you know, something in finance. And so I just never really thought you could do something different than that. And it wasn't until the summer before my senior year was when things started to unlock for a career that could happen in music.
What happened then?
I thought I was going to University of Texas to do engineering. Simple civil engineering, building
simple
life of building roads and sewer lines and bridges and the math behind it all. I was a big math person growing up. I actually got a perfect score on my SATs in the math. So I loved doing that. I was a very, you know, I loved following sets of rules in that and ended up being really good at it. But I was going to go to Texas at a really good engineering school. I'm visiting the school. My girlfriend in high school at the time, her family lived in San Antonio, so it was right next to Austin. And there was a big thunderstorm that didn't allow us to leave, and so we were stuck in the house, and I'm scrolling the TV, and this was in 2010, and I turn on MTV, and there's a documentary about this new artist from Canada, Drake, and he's getting ready to put out his first album, and throughout the documentary, you're seeing his manager, and the first time I saw Jamil was on TV that day.
Is that the one where they had the show in New York, but it got canceled because it was so crazy?
Correct.
I remember that.
Yeah.
It
was on MTV. Great documentary if anyone could ever go back and find it. And on the screen, 40 came on, and it said sound engineer and music producer. And this sort of curiosity sparked of what's a sound engineer. And so I called my dad. It's like, oh, you know, they're the guys that record the artist, they produce the music, mix it, get it ready to put it out. And I was like, wait, that's a real job? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Next day we wake up, same thing, thunderstorm, we can't go visit the school. And my dad calls me back and he goes, hey, son, really weird you asked about engineering because there's someone teaching free classes for high school students in the desert.
Really?
And you should check it out if you're interested. And I was like, all right, I'll go when I'm back. Never got to visit the school, which to me was a sign from whatever people believe in, but that was sort of a, maybe this place isn't meant for you.
Okay.
And what's that?
How old were you? 17.
Okay. And I get back and I go do these engineering classes with the guy's name was Einstein. He was a producer and engineer from LA. He'd done like old Tupac stuff and Snoop, like sort of an OG engineer and producer, teaching these free engineering classes and production classes. And I was the only person that showed up that whole summer. Oh. So you got to work one-on-one with him, and he'd bring in bands, and we'd record them, and I'd go home and work on the records, and I just loved it. Like, it was the first time I felt like I could take something home and just sink my teeth into it. I always had a really hard work ethic. I was always that kid that wasn't the best basketball player on my team, but I was at the gym at 6 a.m., or I wasn't the best in class, but I was staying up late to try to really understand a topic I was learning. So it never felt like it came easy or I was the most gifted there, but I developed a really good work ethic early from my parents, and seeing them and them instilling that was what would get us to whatever we want to achieve in life. And it felt like the first thing I could take home and actually wanted to do. That wasn't a chore. That I just did for myself. And that began. So I actually originally began as an engineer and producer.
That's so interesting. I saw, remember the Defiant Ones? With Jimmy Iovine saying he felt like he had to work 3 times as hard as the other person just to be at the same level. Something, myself as well too, I never thought of myself being so amazing at something. I just said, I have to put in way more work than somebody else does because I'm just trying to get to the same level as them. And I always found, and it's, the more people I find in this business that I talk to, you know, maybe it's the people who I relate to, I don't know, they all kind of have the same work ethic and style of thinking. And
work ethic and that just belief that doesn't matter how long it takes or what it's going to take, you're going to get through it. And all my friends that were naturally better at everything growing up, I look now and their work ethic just isn't the same. And because things were easier for them,
the talent,
for whatever it may have been.
It's not to jump around, but it's a crazy thing. Oh, but I love this train of thought because it's almost even thinking about like some of the most talented artists that we find, we're like, you're incredible, but it comes so easy to them that the work ethic isn't there, and it doesn't go as far as it
all
could.
the time. There's this book called The Talent Code. It's a really good book, and essentially this guy's life work is studying unique places in the world that talent develop differently than they do anywhere else. So there's an area in Houston that 3 singers came from. It was like Beyonce was from that area, Kelly, or they went to a school there, a singing school. Yeah. It was like Beyonce, Kelly Clarkson, and there was a third artist. Or there's this one little town in Brazil that's produced more soccer players than like any town in the world.
No shit.
And so this guy studied all these pockets to be like, how do we develop talent? What is it? What sort of things do people do differently in these places? And it was really interesting to hear why this little town in Brazil has just the best soccer players in the world, or why that town in Houston just created these amazing artists and singers and so on.
That book that did that for me, that's similar to that, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell.
Another great one,
10,000 hour rule.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're doing the engineering, and then, but you don't stay on that path. What made you change? What happened there?
When I was finishing high school and I decided I wanted to go to LA to go to school to pursue music, I chose to go to USC. And I'd met a few artists, being one of the few kids in my town that was doing music. I met the only other 3 artists. It was 2 rappers and a singer. And
you didn't rap? You didn't?
No, I actually wrote a few, but
come on, be honest.
But it never felt natural to me. Never felt natural. And so I started working on music with them. We created our own little group, and it was called Ego Flow back then, was the name of our little like independent label and group that we had, and put out music through Dat Piff at the time, and did the whole mixtape circuit through our own shows. And as we started to develop more and more, I found my love and attention and time going towards the other elements, which was putting the plan together, planning the show, putting, helping shoot the video and put that together. And for me, it was, I try to follow what feels natural and what I naturally want to spend time on, versus telling myself I have to do this or trying to force it. And while I loved engineering and it felt like my entry to music, what I later learned a manager was, and when I started to actually do the things a manager did, was just, it felt like home to me. And I knew that was something I wanted to pursue.
And then you went to USC?
Went to USC, yeah.
And while you were there, take me through that. You were bringing in artists into USC, right? To perform, or like, walk me through that.
Yeah, first day in LA, I go to In-N-Out, and Robin Thicke is there, and I'm like, oh my God, LA is awesome. Yeah. You walk in everywhere, there's a celebrity and an artist.
I had the same thing. I remember my first weekend in LA, I saw like 4 celebrities in like 3 days. I was like, oh, this is incredible.
Yeah, my dreams will all come true. And
tomorrow.
Yeah. I wanted the balance of doing my own thing, but getting experience at a big company. Yeah. To see. I never worked at a big company, so I didn't know if I'd like the system or feel like I could do well in it. So I went and interned at Universal Publishing and Warner Records. Hated both. Love them now, do a lot of work with them, but knew I wasn't meant to be a part of that system in terms of as like an employee and in a working capacity. And I would be there just doing my own work for my own artist, and was so passionate about it. So I did them, so it was a bit of a talking point. So it was on my resume. So if I met someone that I could say, oh, I interned at Warner, because I was really, really big on using my time in college to get to my starting point before school ended. I was really big on that. I didn't want to wait till my senior year to start looking at jobs or trying to figure it out. I started my freshman year. And so, I had these artists I was working with. We threw shows at school, and I did what I needed to do to get by in school. B's, pass class, like no red flags, but all my extra time went towards my artists and finding new stuff and meeting people that worked at blogs and meeting promoters to book shows and all my personal time went to that.
Did you know that you were like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, or are you trying to figure it out in real time?
Yeah.
Over there?
As soon as I started doing that and moved to LA and went to school, I knew it.
You knew it?
Every part of me, yeah. And 99% of people thought I was crazy.
Really?
Because I was a really quiet kid growing up, and I wasn't that confident, and I had no interest in music.
Really?
So, yeah. I was the quietest one in my family by far.
Okay.
really reserved. I was an introvert. I loved to observe things, and I absorbed it that way. I wasn't very like active in a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine, your parent and your quietest kid who has never said anything towards music as a career or as a passion or a love now goes, I'm going to USC to be an artist manager and like I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
So I get it.
What
Now
is
looking
that?
back,
Yeah.
I get it. But it was a huge fuel for me to be like, okay, like sort of go in my own box and just work really hard and work and develop my skills. And I knew those early artists would be my chance to develop my craft, to make some mistakes, to learn, to get confidence in myself.
Yeah.
Because so much of management is sitting across from an artist and saying, here's a plan and this is why I think it's a good idea, and then believing and trusting you.
Mm-hmm.
You could have the best ideas, but if they don't trust or believe in you selling it to them or telling them, it'll go nowhere. And so I use those early years to get that confidence, and I give so much love, and I still talk to those original artists almost weekly. I give so much love to them because they were so supportive. This is when Entourage was big, and they'd look at me every day being like, you're the next Ari Gold. Like, you're going to be the biggest manager in the world. And they would tell me this every day until I eventually believed it. And so that was so critical for me to develop.
That's so important to have a good circle around you to do that stuff.
Yeah. And then that all led to meeting Jamil my junior year of school.
Shout out Jamilio.
Shout out Jamilio.
How'd that go? What was that?
I got like 3 seconds of time.
Oh, really?
I threw a show at school. We booked Big Sean in 2012. And the DJ, who's actually an artist named Nash, who's on Atlantic, who's had a couple really big records.
Yeah.
He was friends with Jamil through a bunch of random connections, and he was like, hey, I'm bringing Drake's tour manager to the show. You should meet him. I was like, of course, would love to. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget the guy that ran the concerts committee met Jamil and was like, that's not Drake's tour manager.
Really?
And sort of like
told you on the side that that's not him.
He was not disrespectful to his face, but didn't show love and accommodation and all that.
Because he didn't believe he was a tour manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jamil was, if you like, now there's social media and all these things, but when you first meet Jamil, you're like, who is this guy? He's insane. And then you realize like Jamil is one of the most unique, special people in the world. But when I met him, I was, sort of said a quick hi. And I said, would love to intern if you ever have an opening. And I got his email. And that was sort of that. When I was in school, at the time, I don't know if Twitter still has it, but you could set a notification if someone tweeted. And I had a list of 10 people I wanted to work for. It was Troy, who you just interviewed, and Scooter, and Guy, and Jamil, and all these people, Cortez Bryan, all these people I wanted to work for. And I had notifications for the slight chance one of them said, I'm looking for an intern or a new assistant, or, I need help on this shoot. And that literally happened like a month after that. Jamil posted, I'm throwing a party and I need some help. Like, who's out there? Wow. And I had his email. So I emailed him immediately and I was like, tell me what you need. I brought a team of people. I think I brought 5 or 6 people to help the party. And he just saw me. He saw I was moving people around and had my team. And this person was doing trash. This person was restocking the bar. And it didn't matter that we were literally help at a party. I treated like we were running, the biggest
Fortune
show that
500
night.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had everyone dialed and everyone wore all black and I had it all together and we came early and he saw me. And I remember that night he introduced me to Cortez.
Okay.
And he was like, just met this kid Tyler and I really like him. You guys should meet too. And things just started to snowball from there.